Hello, and welcome back to another video on Microbit for seniors. Now, you may have already picked up your Microbit. I'm holding a version 2 here. But even if you haven't, today's video will be of some interest because we're going to talk about how to program the Microbit using Microsoft's MakeCode. Now, MakeCode can be used with a variety of computers. In fact, you can just use it online. Ultimately, we'll be adding a copy of something called Microbit to our iPad. It's an app that'll make this even easier because we won't need cables to connect to the Microbit. We'll do it via Bluetooth. So we'll look at the iPad today and see what this Microbit looks like, and more importantly, we want to see what MakeCode looks like and how we can use it to program. So here is just a blank iPad, hardly anything's installed on it. I have included something called files, and we're going to find that a little bit interesting and useful, more than interesting, to store the little programs we create locally, or even on the iCloud, or even on OneDrive, or any place you'd like. But let's first of all see if we can get a copy of MakeCode for the Microbit. What I'll do is launch the browser, and as you see, it's already on the page. It picked up MakeCode.microbit.org. If you didn't go directly to it, and most likely you won't like I just did, you're going to have to just type in MakeCode, and you might get the link to Microbit. But if you don't, you'll get a screen that looks just like Microsoft's entry into this kind of programming, and it'll show both the Microbit, some other devices that can also use MakeCode. But we're going to concentrate on Microbit, so we'll go there. Now, if we look at this screen, we'll see we're at makecode.microbit.org. Now, you could type that in directly and get right here. And as we come down the screen, this is just a line of other things we've looked at. You'll see something called Microbit. It's an app, and you can get that from the App Store, and we will next time. It's going to make programming a little easier because we can send things back and forth to different storage devices. You'll also see that there's something called New Project under My Projects. We have written nothing so far. You can take a different view of them, view all, but there's nothing to see. So we'll just go back to that. We can import from another stored location, but don't worry about that yet. And you'll see lots of things already on here, like tutorials on how to write different programs. Very straightforward and quite easy. A bunch of live coding videos, some games, radio games. The Microbit can actually use what it's called radio to communicate with other Microbits. Fashion. You can see these are designed for a younger audience most of the time. Music, which means making sounds through the hideous speaker. Toys, some science applications, tools, playing the Turtle programming environment, programming in JavaScript. It goes on and on. But today we're going to just look at the simplest way to write a little program. So we'll start something called New Project. You have to give the project a name. So we'll type in that box. I'm going to use my finger this time. And I'm going to call this A space A-N-D space B. I think I put a little mistake up there, didn't I? So, as typical, spelling didn't get that. We'll go with A space A-N-D space B. Remove the keyboard and hit create. Takes a little loop. Now here's the environment for creating your programs. Quite straightforward. And as you'll see, you don't actually need the Microbit to do this one. There's a model of it right there. In fact, it's even picked the right colors, green. It's in the stop mode now, and it's in the quiet mode because the speaker is red, but you can turn that on. We're not going to use the speaker today. It's not built in anyway. Well, it actually is on the version 2, but we'll turn it off. So you see a simulated microbit there, a list of what's called blocks, and we'll choose from those. You'll learn them a little at a time. For example, if you look at basic, there's quite a collection of them. Go away from that. Get out of there. And then over here, the actual work area, we'll do the programming. It's also possible to go from blocks to JavaScript and look at the code that way. But we probably won't spend a lot of time there right now. See, it's text. Let's go back to the blocks. There they are. 2 major blocks. I'm going to click this just so it's not showing up. Oh, it went to blue. Too bad, we can still work with it. There are 2 blocks that it starts with almost every time because it thinks that's what you want. One of them is forever and one of them is on start. The on start block means whatever code you write in there will work when the thing starts up, when the microbit begins. Forever means it goes on, and as soon as it does all of those things, it'll go back and do it again. I think I'd rather use an input button. So we'll choose input and then on button A. Now, these can slide around. This simply means that when you press button A, that's the one there or the one there, whatever's inside here will take place. And I think I'll do a second one, so I go back to input and choose on button, and it says button A again, but it's kind of grayed out because we've already got button A. Luckily, there's a little drop-down box, so I can choose. If you can hit it, I'll use my finger. Guess I won't use anything. Stop. Well, we're back. What we had to do for a minute there was find a way to restart this without losing everything. And I'm not sure what happened. It might be that this iPad, which I believe is an iPad 4, couldn't keep up. Well, anyway, we're back here where we were, looking at 2 different buttons, both called A, and then we were supposed to be able to just press that A and choose this button to be B. And we won't need to use this forever, so we slide it over here. That area turns to a trash can and disappears. And we won't need the start button. We click and drag it over there and make it disappear. So we're just going to write something very simply that creates, is it locked again? Wow. These 2 buttons are giving us trouble. Well, let's pause. We won't make you watch how this is all fixed. Now let's try this again. Seems to have some trouble when I get too excited and move these very quickly. I'm hoping that's just a problem of it just locked again. So I'm going to show you what I'm doing here. I'm actually just closing up that totally and then relaunching. MakeCode comes up. It has saved it so it remembers where we were in the development, I think. Well, let's not even move these around and we'll see if we can work with them the way they are. Still taking a little time. I don't see that microbit at the top there this time. Oh, it's because it's a new instance of this. We'll move them around a little bit. The next video we'll talk about how to install an app for this, which will make this a little bit easier. But I just wanted you to see today a little bit on how easy it is to program this. So we just wanted to do something when button A is pressed and when button B is pressed. And what I'd like to see probably is just some sort of pattern using the LEDs here. So we'll go back to basic, that's where it's kept, and choose something called Show LEDs. See that? It's got little nicks at the top and one at the bottom. Drag that out and we'll pop that in there. So when button A is pressed, we're going to do something that looks like an A out of LEDs. At least I'll try to do something that looks like an A. Do, 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 and then do, do, do. Yeah, that looks like an A. So we can just run this right now and test it. Here it is over here, activated. It's blue instead of green. Turn that on. It's on now. But if it was off, I could run that little start icon there and just press A. And there it is. It turns the LEDs into the pattern of A. Okay, let's go ahead and try writing something with B. Now you can go back to basic, drag this out and put it into the B frame. And let's see if we can make a B this time. We're just turning on these little squares that look like, I don't know, let's see if this looks like a B. Maybe that, and that. Sort of like a B, huh, Pat?
It looks like a B.
So now it's started up again automatically, and all we have to do is press B, and it turns into B. If we press A, it turns into A. So that's a very simple program. Just by pressing the two different buttons, we can change the display. Now, if this was connected, which it isn't at this time because we're going to use Bluetooth, you could hit the download button and it would go away. Before that, though, let's save this. See, there's a little icon there that looks like a diskette, old diskette, and then there's another one.
Oh, that darn phone.
Got a phone call, which we declined. We'll keep going with this. We were talking about this disk. Now you can save this in different places. It's looking for places to save it now. Click download to open the Microbit app, which we haven't installed yet. But that would allow us to save this particular program either on this iPad or somewhere else in the cloud even. We'll ignore it for now. And if you click download, which will send this to the Microbit, not attached at this time, we're going to have to open the Microbit app again to activate the Bluetooth connection. But in the meantime, we're just going to look at how this easy program can be actually viewed on this simulator right now. Now, if you want to do something a little bit easier, or a little bit harder, I guess, instead of showing the LEDs, you drag that out. Now, you could leave it in case you want to use it later. We might like to just pick one that's already done. Basic, go back to basic. And then there's something called show an LED. We'll drag that over. Now, they've already created some patterns, and you're going to see this heart one used a lot. Let's just drag another one of these. Click that one. And just drag this up in there. So now it'll show that when we press the B button. Got to start up the simulator. B. Hello, B. Simulator didn't start. There we go. It all lights up. You can tell when it's working. There's the B thing that we created there, and the A one still works. Now, if we had a third button, we could bring this one back, but we don't have a third button, not with a simple application. Although on the Microbit 2, you can use this little touch piece up here as a third button. And you can use these here in a way that we'll look at another time. But for now, I think, in spite of all those little glitches, we're going to call that a lesson in how to use MakeCode. Oh, come back just for one thing, Pat. Let's see what this looks like in the text thing called JavaScript. But we're not going to go there that often. I'll just see if I can lock it up. But I hit the JavaScript button over here, and it says switching. There's what the Java code looks like. Let's go back to the blocks. This isn't supposed to be as difficult as possible. A little summary maybe before we go on what we're looking at here. We went to makecode.microbit.org. Next time we're going to figure out how to use an app that will do a lot of this stuff for us. We look at the simulating area over here, the block controls here, and the actual work area here. Now you can actually turn this off if you need more screen space by tapping on that, and it'll put it off to the side, and you can write longer programs. You can bring that back. And one last thing I guess I should mention. If you hold down on the particular for a while, it'll pop up a little window, duplicate, add comment, delete block, and help. Duplicate means you could have this whole thing duplicated and I wouldn't have to go back and get another one. Add comment, very useful later on. Delete block gets rid of that, or help. Now help will take you to a section, sometimes online, often online in this particular case, that will give you help if it ever gets going. You can see that's trying to spin. I wonder if we have a, well, there it is. It's giving us a little bit of help on how to show LEDs. Explains it, tells you what the parameters are, and gives you some examples. Once again, when you're done with that, you hit this little gray arrow, white, the arrow's white, and it bops off to the right-hand side. But that was activated by holding down on one of the objects and choosing help. It's fairly sensitive to where you are at that particular time. Enough. We're confused already. So let's wrap this up for today and come back next time and talk about Microbit. In the meantime, you might want to go look at this and fool around with some of these shapes. That's it for today. Bye.